Presentation of Bob Lasher from PSTA. I'm going to cue that up. So let's thank Michael for his presentation. All right. We got it over here.
All right.
So as I introduced Bob Lasher, External Affairs Officer, PSTA.
Means I do everything from sweeping floors, making coffee, and sending out press releases. Thank you very much for having me in today. I see a lot of familiar faces. I know a lot of you participated in a lot of the things that have gone into Greenlight. In case there are things that I don't get to, if you have questions, I left a stash of cards in the back. There are also some goodies. There's some Greenlight bags. We've got some car magnets. There's one in there, if you so desire. And also pens, backside is a stylus.
Bus passes?
No bus passes, sorry. But I know people who have them, so let me know. What I like to do is I have been, it's my first job in transit. I've been here almost 9 years. Not a day has gone by when I haven't learned something new about an extremely complicated subject. I like to take a little of that, put it into my presentations. I want to take you from some of the generalities of transit, where we've been, why we are moving toward Greenlight, and where we are going. And some of the things that I'm sure a lot of you will find surprising based on some recent things you've probably seen and heard in the news. We did a survey a few years ago, a phone survey, and 36% of the people that we talked to said they had used PSTA. And I know there's a guy out there who opposes transit tax. His name is Randall O'Toole. He does some writing, and he always says, well, it's 1% of the population. I want to tell you something about that statistic. That is all of the trips taken on all of the roads, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as compared to those who ride transit. PSTA is basically a sun up to sundown operation. Many of our routes run only morning and evening rush hour, and we only run on a fraction of the roads. So when you compare all of the trips taken on the road, including freight, including people who are working, like plumbers going to their houses, landscapers and lawnscapers, and compare those to the people who are riding transit, not even on the same roads, that's how you get that small percentage. From the American Public Transportation Association, this one, when I first saw it, I kind of raised an eyebrow. For every dollar invested in transit, you get $4 in the local economy. And so I asked about it, I looked into it, and it goes a lot more than creating jobs, buying buses, mechanics, bus drivers, etc. It has to do with something that has really hit home here in Tampa Bay in the last year. Because almost a year ago this month, major news networks reported that the average American family can no longer afford a new car. And in that study, the Tampa Bay region was dead last. Car affordability for the average family here is now $14,500, and the average new car is $30,000. So when you give people a choice to get out of a second car, or even maybe their first car, that's a lot of disposable income you can put in their pockets. Because Consumer Reports now puts car ownership at more than $9,000 on average a year. A monthly bus pass, full fare is $65. That's a lot of money people have to spend on other things. That is part of what's come out of this statistic from American Public Transportation Association. Back in 2010, based on a survey of our riders who said they'd otherwise be driving cars, I did some math. And at that time, we were keeping a line of traffic off of the roads here every rush hour more than 10 miles long. Our ridership is at all-time record highs. It's increased by almost 2 million since then. So for people, and there are a lot of them who won't be able to use transit. I mean, you're certainly not going to be a real estate agent showing houses on buses. We keep a good long line of traffic out of their way, and we hope we can do a lot better with Greenlight because everything looks like it will be. Have you seen the recent stories about the demographic shifts? How vehicle miles traveled are dropping, and transit miles are going way up, especially for, I guess, generations Y and X. There's a Y and Z, the younger generations. Since 1995, I don't keep those straight, sorry. Home ownership is down. And to show you how things have changed from my day, take a look at that bottom statistic. The young kids making more than $70,000, and I'm still saying this, are doubling their transit ridership. When I make more than $70,000, I hope I can ride more too. But when I was that age, are you kidding? It's like getting a car. We've got changing demographics in our country. Things are really changing, and we want to move along with them. We're at all-time record ridership. As I mentioned, we only run about 150 buses, a little more, about 155, I guess, at rush hour. That's peak service. Yet we managed to carry almost 14.5 million riders last year. And we do count them, and I want to make sure this is on the record. Every time somebody boards a bus, it counts as one ride. That is a national standard. The reason being is because transit systems can't count if somebody's paying 2 cash fares. How do you know it's the same person? How do you know you don't? It's a national industry standard. Opponents of Greenlight try to make it sound like we're doing something nefarious. No, we're just following national standards to help us qualify for federal funding. Most trips are now to and from work. That's changed over the past 5 years. And only 28% of riders, based on a survey a year ago last fall, said they have no other means of transportation. And I'll introduce you to some of these riders. This lady I met when I was riding in Clearwater. Single mom, 2 kids, her car was totaled. She's trying to get her nursing degree at St. Petersburg College, SPC, up in Clearwater. And she can get to her classes on PSTA, and she had to make this choice, new car or tuition. She chose tuition. Problem is, our service ends too early. We can't get her home from her classes, so she's got to find a different way home, something else. We heard that exact same story last night at the city of Dunedin. A lady who was talking about SPC, same thing. She's getting her degree, she said she can get to classes, and she wanted to know from our CEO, if this thing passes, if Greenlight moves forward, if we're going to have labor service. Yes, we will. We want to be able to get people to and from, not just classes, but to restaurants and movie theaters, whatever entertainment venue you might have, or second shift jobs, which we can't accommodate right now. And people, that's a big deal for the economy. David Samadine, at one of our busiest stops in the entire system, busier than some of the stops at our terminals, is Bay Pines Veterans Center. We carry a whole lot of veterans, and he was saying the same thing. Life's the service, but you got to be careful because you can get stuck at night. You can go out to dinner, but you can't get home. And he goes, that's not really viable. The guy sitting next to him, and I will never ever forget this, injured in Iraq, said he never much thought about riding transit, but he said, we're all just one incident away from having to rely on it the rest of our lives. And this is what they have to rely on in Pinellas County. Most of our routes run once an hour, some of them every other hour. We've got some that run more frequently, a couple running every 15 minutes on Central Avenue, 4th Street, and St. Pete, along US 19. But the bulk of our service is once an hour, and as a rider, I can tell you that does not encourage choice ridership. My stop's been cut down to every other hour. I'll drive somewhere and get on the bus now, because I don't want to have to wait somewhere 2 hours if I miss the bus. And this is one of the prime reasons, this is one of our #1 requests from riders and the public. Buses have to run more often. They have to run longer periods at night, and that's what we're trying to do. One of the things you hear is that our buses run always empty. As a rider, I don't find that to be the case. This is a map of everything in yellow that is standing room only loads. Not just at rush hour, but a lot of them are through the mid-portion of the day. Right out here, the US 19, where's 19, that way? Yeah, that way. Throughout the day, you'll find standing room only loads. We have trouble right now meeting capacity. We do have buses, as I mentioned earlier, running split shift. They spend a lot of the day going to and from routes. They go out in the morning, come back for midday, go out in the afternoon, come back. We have buses running 130,000 miles every month deadheading. They're going to and from the routes. And a lot of them go to the Bayside Bridge, which we don't have service over, and it's bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's where I drive a lot of times, and we have the empty buses, and I know people are in their cars going, look, there's another empty bus. They don't care if it's out of service. They just assume it's in service. So the empty bus myth, and there's a video if you want to go on YouTube, Ride PSTA, you can see a little more about how that comes into play. As I mentioned, ridership has gone up precipitously over the past few years, 23%, despite the fact that we have lost, because we're primarily property tax funded, $40 million out of a $56 million budget in that time. We have streamlined service, we've cut service, we've raised fares, and still all-time record ridership meeting demand. And by the way, this is a 2006 bus. Number up here tells you what it is. I'll take this time to counter one of the silly arguments I've heard so far from opponents of Greenlight, that our buses have dark windows so people can't see who's not riding. We buy that, we get tinted windows for the same reason people with their cars here do. If we didn't tint them, we couldn't keep the cabins cool in the summertime. And as further proof, at night our buses run with interior lights on. They're lit up for the whole world to see when ridership is lightest. If we were trying to hide who's on the bus, we'd have them turn the lights off. So that's one you may hear. We have a little, that one, we got a good laugh over that one. Compared to other systems across the country, we've done very, very well. We've been in a benchmarking study. We do very well for our buses, our mileage, our administrative costs. In fact, KMPG just finished a merger study for PSTA and HART and surprised a lot of people at how efficient PSTA is. There's a lot of our board members say, especially the ones who are most skeptical, this says there's no fat at PSTA. It's a very lean agency we're very proud of. We have, for a long time in the Bay Area, not just Pinellas, but Hillsborough as well, spent about half as our peer cities every year per capita on transit. That's one of the reasons why our system is so much smaller than our peer cities. Why some of our tourists who come here will tell us, boy, you know, it's a lot better system up in Milwaukee and in Nashville and Memphis. Second-tier cities. We're the 20th largest metro area in the country. Before we moved forward, and we knew we wanted to improve, we reached out in 2009 and we started asking residents, what do you want? What do you support? And this was in the heart of the recession. Of course, people want transit. That's pretty universal. But we also started asking, how do they want to pay for it? And the number one response, overwhelmingly, was that, well, they really would like to see a 1% sales tax come in, some significant improvements, and for PSTA to get rid of its current property tax. And that was pretty much the genesis of Greenlight. We figured that was the way to move forward. And we didn't do this in a vacuum. We brought in thousands of members of the public, the local officials, partner agencies, a lot of them here, to get together to make these decisions. And this is what it's going to shape out to be here locally. Right now, there are about 426,000 parcels paying into PSTA. They're paying the property tax. Moving away from that, zeroing that out and going to a 1% sales tax expands not only to the entire population, and I realize that includes some kids, okay, so you can take some of that numbers down, but our 5.4 million tourists, record tourism. The Tourism Development Council actually argues that tourists pay up to 40% of the sales tax figures, but the county maintains 30%. I don't care either way, I'll let them argue it. But it's a nice expansion of the tax base, and this is how it would shake out. For the median household in Pinellas County right now, they'd be paying about $81 to PSTA in the property tax. You go through the IRS sales tax deduction calculator based on the median income, and that increases to about $104. That's the increase people will get for a significantly improved transit system. But, and this is a big but, this is a big but, it doesn't include a very important aspect of this discretionary tax. The PSTA tax, which also like penny for Pinellas, will not be levied on groceries. It will not be levied on medical items, and not the big medical items. I'm talking aspirin, cough syrup, cold medicine I took this morning that doesn't seem to be working. There are a lot of other items. Actually, there are 4 pages of items. Flags, there's some farm goods in there as well, and it's capped at $5,000. So if you buy a new car, you're only going to pay that extra penny on the first $5,000. That's $50. So if you hear people out there, and we have them, who are saying, well, if somebody's going to buy a $30,000 car, they're going to go to Hillsborough and save $300. No, they're not. They'll save $50 on their taxes. If they want to drive all the way to Hillsborough to save $50, okay, I'll probably spend more than that in gas. So moving forward, we asked and worked with the county commission. They agreed to put a referendum on the ballot for a 1 penny sales tax to replace PSTA's property tax. PSTA was zeroed out. We did ask the legislature to remove our taxing authority, passed both houses easily last year, but vetoed by the governor. So we'll do it ourselves, we'll get rid of it ourselves. And to get the message out was the big issue. How do you get such a complicated message out to people, to let them know what we want them to decide? And that's where Greenlight began. Because you have plans from T-BARTA, you have plans from the PPC, from the MPO, from PSTA, long-range plans. We had to bring this all together so that they all fit in one plan. The Greenlight plan is part of the T-BARTA master plan. These partners work together because we thought that's what you're supposed to do. We're a national model for partnership for our alternative analysis study, which was a rail portion of the background. So this is what we're looking at. If the referendum doesn't pass because of the property tax drop in the recession, we're looking, right now we're using reserves because we don't want to cut service because of the all-time record demand. That'll be out by about 2017, and we'll be cutting service by 28% and probably more after. If it does pass, we're looking at about a 65% increase in bus service, later service running at night, more service on the service on the weekends for the first time across the bay, the West Shore, Tampa International Airport, much more support for tourists, workers, second shift work finally. We have 3 shifts at PSTA. A lot of our workers couldn't use PSTA to get to and from if they wanted to. It's going to be really a transformational change as we move forward with core routes featuring fast buses, well not fast buses, but running every 15 minutes. More frequent service, some bus rapid transit on these major lines, using different types of technologies. There's a whole lot of argument out there about, well, what is bus rapid transit? Well, it depends on where you are. Cleveland's bus is running every 5 minutes, and that's about it. Normal buses doing everything. We'd like to include some other differences like off-board fare payment. As a rider, I can tell you, if any of you have ridden, you've seen this all the time, people can wait for an hour and a half for a bus, and they will walk up, they will get on that bus and right up to the fare box and then start doing one of these, standing there in front of the fare box to pull out their fare card. Oh, here.
All right.
Happen to have it. It's just human nature. My dad does it all the time. I give him a hard time about it. If you can pay before you get on, pay off board, get on the bus goes. You don't need major changes at intersections. You can put in just a bus lane, let the bus get the green light, it's called queue jumping. That goes ahead of traffic, so everybody in traffic sees it moving a lot faster. Encourages people to ride, says, hey, you know, maybe it's time I take the bus, get more choice riders on there. Well, that 15-minute service on some of our most popular routes, the beach trolley routes, that's not just for tourists. Those are like Tokyo subways in the mornings, and we have videos on our YouTube channel as well showing people getting on this thing, just pushing to get on, and they're workers. I came home at 4:20 on a Saturday from Pier 60 in Clearwater. I was working out on the beach. There were 34 people at my bus stop. 2 of them were beachgoers. So there are more than just tourists riding those. We're going to have a 400% increase in service in North County, more of our connector services. Of course, the 19 and some of the other busier routes will go through there. But park and rides up for Pasco County for a connection. More connections going across the Bay Express service. That's limited stop. Those are the Greyhound style buses. They're also going to be running at more parts of the weekends and at nights to get people back and forth across the Bay. The supporting network is going to basically be streamlined and going to 30-minute service. And that's a big difference. When you have buses running once an hour or every other hour, you really have to bring people into a hub. It's called a hub system. Because you don't want them sitting out on Ulmerton Road or US 19, they wouldn't wait there. Some of these roads for an hour to 2 hours in the sun, you want to get them somewhere where they've got a bathroom, they've got some shade, they've got some water, a place to rest. Well, when you start to move your frequencies around the county down to every 15 to 30 minutes, now the transfers are very quick. And it also responds to our number 2 request to PSTA. Or actually, it would be the complaint. It takes too long to get from point A to point B. This speeds it up. You're not waiting so long to catch your next bus. You can catch it. You can wait right there on the street because the next one's coming in only a few minutes. And we also see that people all around the area, not the area, sorry, the country, be the world technically, that when you get more frequent service, they're much more willing to ride. You know, if you look at the newspaper, look at the classifieds. Go down there. You'll see a lot of the classifieds, and some of them say, no bus riders, must have own car. Why? Because they don't want an employee who, if they miss the bus, is going to be at least an hour late. This is big for the economy. And getting people around faster really makes their lives a lot easier. Now, all of this that I've just shown you is moving forward to building a foundation for a 24-mile light rail line with 16 stops from downtown St. Petersburg, jogging to Pinellas Park, through Gateway, Carolina. I hope you remember those red dots from Michael's presentation on the map, because this pretty much follows them. And then going by the airport and then up into the Clearwater. That was chosen with thousands and thousands of members of the public helping us, a lot of our local officials, a lot of our civic organizations looking to get the right alignment. We don't have it down for street to street yet. That will come once we get funding, because we don't have the funding for it now. But a few things are in here. It's not so much an end-to-end travel, because you'll see people say, well, nobody wants to go from all the way from St. Petersburg to Clearwater to St. Petersburg. That's probably a pretty small market, but where the real market is getting to the employment center of our county right here. The area that has the biggest potential for employment growth. You want to get the people in the residential areas there from both directions and out. And I don't know if any of you have to deal with some of this traffic. I come down and go through Ulmerton from the north, and it takes me almost 50 minutes to go 7.9 miles. It's, I'll be happy when I can do something else. And it also poises us for the future, because it's our responsibility as a transit agency to plan with our other agencies for the future. And FDOT has committed to putting a transit component into the new rebuild of the Howard Franklin Bridge, and this will make us poised to make an easy connection over the bay when that happens, and connect in the future, because that's what we have to do. You have to plan for the future as well. The alternatives analysis was the rail part of the study. You can see we had more than 26,000 members of the public helping with that, along, as I mentioned earlier, our nationally recognized partnership. We also had a community bus plan, reaching out to the community, not just bus riders, but everybody. What do you want? What will get you on a bus? Where do you want to go? When do you want to travel? Why don't you ride? What's preventing it? Because we needed this information to form the whole basis of the Greenlight plan. Now people ask, why not bus rapid transit as opposed to light rail? Well, it had to be something that was going to be in its own lane. We didn't want to stick something in traffic and have it stuck behind all the cars. Once you do that, once you build its own guideway, the costs are almost as expensive as putting in a light rail system or passenger rail. So the decision was made that you put in, which was about right now $100 million more to build the rail system, and then you save in the long term on operational costs, because the bus system operational costs are going to be much more expensive than the rail costs. And we've seen from modern data that there is tremendous development along these rail lines around the country. Now, there are opponents out there, cite reports saying, well, they don't support development. Reports I've seen were published in '95, which don't include data from modern rail systems. But what we've seen from Salt Lake, Portland, Denver, Charlotte is tremendous development along the line. Charlotte's got their initial 8-mile line, $1.4 billion in development along that line scheduled through next year. 2,400 apartment units within a 1,500 walk opened as of last year on that line. One of the things we heard most often in the Greenlight plan we really took to heart was from things like Mayor, now Governor Pat McCrory, Charlotte, North Carolina. Came here and he talked to us and said of everything he's done, it was the bus systems improvements he was proudest of, because, and he said this with a lot of others, the successful rail systems are only as successful as those supporting bus networks, and the Greenlight plan is taking that to heart, because most of the county are one connection away from getting on a rail line and using it, making it very easy. In fact, we had a gentleman here, it's interesting, I find that a lot of people, especially opponents, love to use the word boondoggle describing light rail. In 2009, John English, head of the Salt Lake City system, which is UT, stood right there and was telling us how he got his first system underway. It took a long time because there were a lot of communities, and some that opted out and said, we don't want anything to do with it. They tended to be the wealthier, right-leaning communities. And he stood there in 2009 and said, they've seen it, it's running, they are now throwing money at us to expand. In the heart of the recession. I don't know how that qualifies as a boondoggle, but it's an interesting take on it, I suppose. Greenlight Pinellas plan in total, in case you're wondering about the finances, because people they were making claims, well, they're not going to hold up because they were originally done in 2011. We brought in Ernst & Young. They put it through a sensitivity test. I don't know what to call it that. It sounds more suitable to marriage counseling, but it's really a stress test. I mean, they put this thing through various scenarios, including another recession worse than the one we've been through, to see how it stood up, and it came through with flying colors. If things go really far south, you may have to extend it, phase it out a little more, but it passed, and it passed very, very well and held up, and it's FTA compliant through and through. We're very proud of that. You can find, that plan should be up there. If it's not now, it will be shortly. You can find all of our background data, the alternatives analysis, the bus plan, some of the planning charrettes, which I know some of you participated in. They are on our websites, whether it's greenlightpinellas.com or psta.net. As we move forward, we'll be having project trackers and updates on these. We'll have citizen oversight committees. And one last thing I want to show you. We have opponents out there who are insisting, they're going around the county and they're using this data from our community bus plan, which is nothing more than ridership by route. And they're saying, look at all of these routes over here, nobody's riding, move them, get rid of them. You know, put them over on the core routes, put the drivers in buses. Difference being, and the truth is, some of these routes run literally 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, once an hour. These routes, core routes, will run from 5 o'clock in the morning to almost midnight, 40, 50, 60 times a day. How can you expect a route that runs 3 times a day to carry as much as one that runs 63 times a day? It's a network, it's a system. They feed each other, they work together. I want to show you a couple of these routes that some of the opponents say we should get rid of. 78 runs between Clearwater up to Countryside Mall and back through Dundee. 98 is a commuter route, St. Pete, Clearwater, standing room only when I used to ride. This is the measure of how well the system is doing. The number of passengers boarding per hour of service. How many people are getting on and off as that thing's running? They say get rid of this route. Second most productive route in the system, people getting on and off. At 98, it only runs a few times a day, which is way over here on the overall ridership. I used to ride that, and it was standing room only when it came through the PSTA bus stop. This is what determines success. And I just wanted to, I'd like to send some of this out to try to set some of the records straight. So now, this is something we could go on for hours and hours. If I have time, I'll address some questions. Yes, okay, thanks.
Hey Bob, just want to thank all of you because one day the Regional Planning Council was a partner with T-BART and I'm now a citizen representative on the T-BART Citizens Advisory Committee. And this is a key piece of livable communities, what you all created when you did the TOD guidelines that helped us, and you guys just put that all together and collaborated so well. So this is a key partner for making livable communities more possible. So I hope that you all will express that to your friends and neighbors and say that, you know, this is what we can do with redevelopment. This is what we can do to make communities more green. This is what we can do to make create jobs. It's just an all-around good thing. So thank you all for your help with that and appreciate this. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that. Any other questions, comments? As I said, stack of cards back there, something, yes sir?
Yeah, you were talking about off-board paying. What about something like a SunPass type of card or key fobs that coming onto the bus?
Very good. Here. This has a few extra things in it. You get the prize. And I'm very glad that you asked that. We are right now putting out an RFP using, we've got some state funding grants for a regional fare pass collection. Exactly what you were talking about. Some sort of swipe card where it'll be PSTA, it'll be most of it in the region. John, it's Pasco, Manatee, Sarasota, Hart, Pinellas. Are there any others? But that's exactly what it's going to be. And not just for our area, but for all of them. So you don't have to worry about it. You get one of those, you get on, do the swipe card. And we're really excited about that. It's a big, big step forward for Bay Area transit. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any initial ideas of, you know, if a vote was taken today, if it would pass in Pinellas County?
I'm a pessimist. I don't like to count anything before it's actually taken. There are polls on both sides of it. One was recently conducted by one of the leaders of the opposition group, and we had a good shot over the poll. He said no, it would fail. The Tampa Bay Times, Bay News 9 said it would pass. There is a lot of water to go under the bridge between now and November 4th. In fact, right now, a private campaign for Greenlight, they call it Greenlight Yes, is having its kickoff over at the Realtor Association in Wilmington. But to answer your question, I haven't a clue.
So what type of outreach are you doing to make sure that this does pass?
We're doing everything we possibly can to get out and teach people about what's involved. It's actually mandated by the state that we do it. We cannot endorse a yes vote. We just want people to go to our website, go to the Greenlight website, and learn why we're proposing this, what will happen if it passes, what will happen if it doesn't, because if it doesn't pass, it's also part of the Greenlight plan. And we're trying to get out as many groups, as many people, and touch as many of our citizens as possible, saying this is what we're asking you to decide. And it's been difficult. Because the marketing department I'm in has the same number of staff now as when I joined in 2005. So it's been a lot of weekends, and a lot of late nights. We don't have this massive staff department to do this.
So what can groups like us do besides talk with, our friends and neighbors?
Oh, boy, I can go back to that. Thank you, I appreciate it. That's critical. If you belong to any civic groups, any groups whatsoever, see if you can have us in. We'll show you and the groups what the plans are. I tell people all the time, you give me 90 minutes, I can be anywhere in the county as long as I don't have another presentation scheduled. You get a group of friends together in your living room, I don't care if it's on a weekend, I'll come by and talk to them about it, tell them why we're doing this, what's in the plan, and what'll happen either way. I won't tell them to vote yes or no. Even though I've been told by my lawyer I can, I'm not about to do that. I want to play it safe. But yeah, spreading the word is the most important. Because I'm sure, as most of you know, trying to inform an electorate has to be, in my lifetime, the biggest single challenge I've ever come across. It's easy when you have a 4 or 5 word slogan. They'll latch onto that, they won't even question it. But when you have something this complicated, getting that message out is really tough. So help us spread the word. You take my cards, hand down, say, hey, if you've got a group, a church group, civic group, Rotary, Kiwanis, whatever, we'll come in and talk to you, meet with you, answer all the questions. I've had people come to my office and talk with them one-on-one about this.
So do you have a 4 or 5 word slogan? I mean, I just saw something.
Well, I think that we don't, no. I think Greenlight Yes is going to be the campaign slogan for the private fund. But we haven't had any slogan. We haven't launched anything like that. We are the mandated educational outreach. And we're just trying to help spread the word that way. We've got great support from the Sierra Club and others who are helping people saying, this is what it involves, this is what it entails. Because a lot of people want to focus, well, it's a 1 cent sales tax, 1%. Some of the opposition calls it 14% increase. Well, that's percentage of percentage. Some are calling it a 300% increase. It's 1 penny on the dollar. And they like to focus on that, and we try to get out more out. I mean, this is what you're getting for that penny. This is the system that we built and how it affects people.
Well,
And we'll take all the help we can get.
I just saw some people, older individuals on the corner of 4th Street and 38 the other day with their no tax for real sign.
Mhm.
And I assume it's related to this. So.
Yes, it is. That's the opposition group.
No tax for trucks, yeah. So it may be useful to have a 4 to 5 word slogan.
Well, we are limited. We have to be very, very careful about promoting a yes vote in the campaign. We can't do that. So I'm leaving that up to the private group who's going to put it together, use private dollars not associated with public funding, and I'm sure they will come up and do something there. But it was interesting, you said a lot of seniors, they stand to be one of the groups that benefits most out of this because they have very few choices right now. AAA says we are outliving our ability to drive by 7 to 10 years, and it's much cheaper to keep people in their own homes than put them in assisted living. This will help with that.
All right, well, let's thank Bob.